In German, it's hard to be gender neutral. Like, English has this really convenient word, the singular they, which has been used as an epicene, completely gender neutral, third person pronoun for centuries. Putting aside for a minute its controversial use as a non-binary pronoun, its use as a simple blanket term for he or she is ubiquitous and standard in English. German has no equivalent for this. You can't say someone forgot their coat in German. You have to say someone forgot his coat. But it gets worse. Whenever you want to refer to pretty much anything to do with humans, you have to gender everything. For example, in English, you could say a sentence like, talk to your teacher if you have an issue. But in German, the word for teacher changes based on whether that teacher is a man or a woman. So, what if the teacher in this sentence is hypothetical and their gender is unknown? What word should you use? Well, the generic masculine is typically favoured. You say ihr Lehrer, not ihre Lehrerin, because the masculine covers the feminine. The same logic is used for plurals. The teachers is die Lehrerinnen if all the teachers are women, but even if one of those is a man, we switch over to the generic masculine plural, die Lehrer. And that's not even the most confusing thing about German, so if you're going to learn it, you're going to want a professional. And there's nowhere better to find a professional language tutor than on this video sponsor, LiveXP. LiveXP gives you access to over 2,000 tutors, and not just for German, but in over 35 languages. You can filter through tutors by interest and goals to find the one that's right for you, and this personal interaction is absolutely indispensable when it comes to mastering a language. All tutors on the platform are included in the subscription, so you don't have to worry if you need to switch. And if you know someone who wants to learn English or want to improve your own, then they can use LiveXP's new and unique combined approach, which keeps real-life tutors, but allows you to create a personalized learning path with the help of AI. So go to the link in the description to start your personalized learning experience with LiveXP, and book a 30-minute trial lesson for only 99 cents with my promo code K Klein, or get a 30% discount on any subscription with K Klein 30. Look, I live and study in Germany. I have to write a lot of stuff in German, and I use the generic masculine. I know, but it's just so much hassle otherwise, and it just looks clean on a page in my opinion, and I vary it a bit. You know, you sort of end up using a generic feminine quite a lot in German as well, because the word for person is feminine, so whenever you refer to a person, the pronouns that follow correspond to English she and her. At the end of the day, I don't think it matters all that much, but at the same time, why does the masculine get to be favoured, right? I think it makes sense that people want a new way of writing these words to feel more inclusive. Take the phrase, a good player. In German, depending on the player's gender, this could be ein guter Spieler or eine gute Spielerin. But in a gender-neutral context, some people want to write both of these variations at once by going eine gute Spielerin. That little asterisk there is the Gendersternchen, the gender star, and it's one of several common conventions for writing in a gender-neutral way, along with a slash, colon, underscore, capital I in the middle of the word. I really hate that one. Please stop with that one in particular, and some other niche ones as well. The other way to do this is to repeat the word. Ein guter Spieler oder eine gute Spielerin. And that is very tiresome, but at least it's pronounceable, right? If you're going to use this gendergerechte Sprache, that is, gender-correct language, then you're going to have to make a compromise. For some people, punctuation in the middle of words is just going to look ugly. A bunch of repetitions is going to sound stupid, and SpielerInnen is just really weird to pronounce. On the other hand, some feminists have remarked that the feminine ending here is still in second place, an alternative or offshoot of the masculine form. So, no, this gender-correct language has not ended sexism. It isn't perfect, but some people like it. I personally think using the colon or asterisk looks fine. I've gotten used to it, and now it doesn't bother me while reading at all. So yes, use the Gendersternchen, or whatever particular gender-correct convention you prefer. No one in Germany is going to mind. Even if someone doesn't like using it themselves, they'll understand that you're just being nice and inclusive, and leave it at that. What a beautiful conclusion to this little video. Wait, what's that? The script carries on past this point. Why does it do that? Oh, it turns out I lied. because some people in Germany will mind, and they will tell you about it. Well, the contempt is really directed at gender-correct language in general, but in my experience, the gender star has become a kind of symbol of this. Take this article, which describes an initiative against the Genderstern, when it's actually talking about all those different punctuation marks in general. Let's take a quick look at that article, actually. See, at the moment, there is a law on the books in Brandenburg, one of the 16 states of Germany, called the Landesgleichstellungsgesetz. And it's all about ways of advancing equal rights for women. Section 13 of this law deals with language, promoting some kind of linguistic equality. This stipulates that representatives of the state government have to use gender-neutral language where possible, and where this is not possible, to use both the masculine and feminine together, in official documents and laws and the like. It makes no mention of the gender star or anything like that, but using it would be one way in which to follow the law. Meanwhile, the far-right party, AfD, plan to ban the gender star and all of these other gender punctuation marks from the entire public sector, including schools and universities. And this isn't just the party in Brandenburg. The AfD wants to ban the use of Gendersprache by the federal government too. And it isn't just the AfD. The right wing in general is getting in on this, with an actual ban now enacted by the right-wing CSU-led government of Bavaria that extends, again, to schools and universities. So, a big question, why? There is currently no law in Germany that forces anyone to use gender-correct language in their day-to-day lives. The law we saw earlier applies only to official, written documents and the like. So what does it matter to people? Well, there are a few quick arguments we can go through. First, there's the fact that there's more people who generally dislike Gendersprache than who like it, according to some studies. Therefore, it's bad. This is, of course, a ridiculous argument. People are wrong all the time. Loads of people believing something doesn't make it true or right or good. I think this one's fairly obvious, really. These laws are being passed democratically by representatives of the people, as happens in a representative democracy, and they're not affecting people's daily lives. This isn't a generic masculine ban. This is about the instruments of government. Second, and this is a good one, there's the argument that it costs too much money. Like replacing all those documents and stuff, I guess. Whatever. The actual point here, I think, is once again a populist one. It's appealing to working families, going, look at this wasteful government spending your tax euros on genders and wokeness. Meanwhile, you have real problems and they don't care about your well-being. This is all just for rich elites who don't know what it means to have to earn your money, and so on and so on. This is, in essence, not an argument, it's a distraction. There's nothing contradictory about some laws about how to write official documents and state or federal welfare schemes. We can do both. Actually, maybe we should do both. Third, the one you've all been waiting for. Some people say it's just too complicated. This makes the German language too confusing. It's hard enough already. And though I do agree that it's hard enough already, this strange appeal to stupidity doesn't work for me either. I could just as easily say, I get confused by the generic masculine. It's so confusing to me personally, so it needs to be changed, and no one should ever be allowed to use it. That would be an equally valid argument in reverse. And finally, there's the idea that this is somehow breaching freedom of speech. This is being forced upon you by the government. And all I have to say about this is, no, this doesn't challenge anyone's freedom of speech. It's a framework for use by certain governing bodies in their official documents. You're not being silenced. You can go outside and scream in the generic masculine all you want. But see, even in engaging with those arguments there, I got fooled and duped. Bamboozled, you might say. Because they are all lies, and when politicians use these arguments, they are lying. Now, that might sound like a pretty bold statement, but look for a second. They don't care about popular support when it doesn't suit them. The AfD is the only major party in Germany that isn't for same-sex marriage, despite 81% of Germans being in support of it. The right doesn't care about the economy or people's money. The AfD itself wants to massively lower government spending and cut taxes on the rich. They want to leave the European Union, damn it. Economic welfare means nothing to them. When they say the language is too complicated with the gender star, I don't believe them. Obviously it isn't that complicated. Even me, when I saw it for the first time, I instantly got what it was saying, without any prior knowledge of Gendersprache, since I grew up in the UK. And they certainly don't care about freedom of speech. How do I know that? Because they are literally advocating the opposite version of the laws they are calling anti-free speech. Well, opposite and stronger. Instead of it just being for official government documents, remember, they want to ban language they don't like in schools and even in universities, which are explicitly excluded from liberal laws like the one we saw earlier in Brandenburg in the name of academic freedom. So, I don't know, I guess they are just pro-maintaining masculinity as the default. They're a conservative party, they don't like change, and they want to appeal to their voter base's sense of victimization and alienation, that feeling that the world has moved on from you, that it's all running away with new ideas and weirdness that you don't understand, that the liberals are taking over. But it's also a diversion. What better way to distract from the fact that you don't care about people's livelihoods or their freedom of speech than to flip the script and pretend to be championing those precise things in a niche topic that doesn't really matter, but you blow it up to become a cultural phenomenon, force everyone to have an opinion on it and shift the discourse away from your abysmal policies. This is what some might term culture war bullshit. And I think this is a great example of how the AfD have really watched and learned from, the Republican Party in the United States, for instance. Okay, so earlier I said this is a nice thing some people might want to use to kind of be inclusive, and that's fine. But we haven't really touched upon why we have laws that make official documents write out the feminine as well. Is this some kind of forced inclusion? Well, kind of, yes. For me, it's a matter of legal precision. Just having very technical, unambiguous language in the law. And sure, you could say it's obvious that the masculine includes the feminine. That's the whole thing with the generic masculine. But the issue with that is, hypothetically, a bad actor could go in, look at the laws already in place, and reinterpret them as referring to definite masculine words, in order to deliberately exclude women from certain positions. Like if a law refers to der Richter or der Rechtsanwalt, the masculine forms of judge and lawyer respectively, sure, one administration could think it obvious that those are grammatically masculine words that refer to all people in actuality, but the next might say, well, these are clearly masculine, that means men. So women can't possibly be in these positions. It's in the law. And it's not even that far-fetched. Something similar happened in real life in Germany. The Nazis kind of did that. I mean, look, the Nazis were dictatorial, they would have banned women from positions of power either way. I'm not saying this allowed Nazism to happen, or that the discrimination against women was caused by the generic masculine. But don't you want every possible roadblock against fascism put up? Every little possible annoyance? I mean, especially if it's something as easy as adding an asterisk and a couple of extra letters, then who cares? Laws say things in excruciating detail all the time, but we can't ensure women, and maybe even queer people, are always explicitly included in legal writing. Like, that's where we draw the line. We can't just add that tiny little extra bit of security for over 50% of the population. Again, said security is small, very small. It's really not the most important issue in the world, but excuse me if I'm a tiny bit skeptical when the far right takes a strong, brave stance against precise laws and unambiguous official statements.